Hi, my name is Ann, and I'm the host of Taking Questions here at the After Party. And I am thrilled today to have on Dyna Vink, who is the founder at Holistic Nutrition Lifestyle. She's a certified health and nutrition coach, and she specializes in women who are in perimenopause. Welcome, Dyna.
Hi, Anne. I'm glad to be here. I'm just thrilled with what Woman S is doing to increase the profile of perimenopause and menopause. It's
Well,
fantastic.
thank you for saying that. The first question I have for you is, why did you choose to work with women who are in perimenopause?
Well, perimenopause is a challenging time for women. And I know for me, it certainly was. I didn't know what was going on for the first couple of years. And I didn't really find a lot of resources around to help me. And so, it meant a lot of unnecessary suffering. And, I don't think that's necessary. So I'm at the time of my life now where I want to be giving back. And this seemed like a perfect opportunity to work in in an area that I have a passion for and that's close to my heart.
That's great to hear, and it is such an important topic, and we're seeing so much more about it, being talked about it in the workplace, being talked about it in the press. We even have so many celebrities that are out now and talking about it, and it's really wonderful to see all of these companies and people talking about a topic that is so important. I mean, as we know, we spend a quarter of our lives in either perimenopause or menopause. Can you define for me the difference in the definition between perimenopause and menopause?
Sure. Well, perimenopause is that transitionary time. So when women reach early 40s, usually is about the time, then the estrogen levels start to decline. And that decline can take several years. It can take as long as, between about 3 and 15 years. So it can be quite a length of time. And menopause is actually that point on that timeline once a woman has not had her period for a full year. And then you jump into postmenopause. So technically, menopause is a very small period of time, but we all talk about menopause, or at least the general public refers to menopause, and I think usually it refers to actually perimenopause because that's when all the action happens, and that's when all the questions come up and all the changes and the confusion. So that's
Right.
basically the difference.
Right. I've read that there's between 40 and 70 different symptoms when you're in perimenopause. Everything, from the night sweats to the brain fog, the joint
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
There's just so many things going on. The thinning of the hair, loss of energy is a big one. What can
Yeah.
women do to get their energy back?
Well, energy is a big one, and it's usually the first flag that something is going on, right? And but it's complex. It's not like one thing. It's not like you can take one pill for it. So it usually is connected with several things. So the first thing would be that it's a signal that sleep is perhaps getting disrupted, and that means that the body isn't getting the opportunity to do the maintenance work that it does during sleep. Joint pain can make it less pleasant to be out there and doing things. And of course, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So that
Mm.
contributes to kind of a decline in energy. There's brain fog going on. And when you've got brain fog, it makes it harder to focus. And unfortunately, there are lots of opportunities then to feel inadequate. And, that means that you're just going to feel lower and discouraged. And, finally, that means that you may have issues with confidence and self-esteem,
Mhm.
which, all goes to that, energy sucking kind of activity. So, in my experience, getting energy back requires work on all these different fronts. All right. So it's a lifestyle approach for most women, and it means making certain changes, some of them very subtle and some of them may be much larger, in order to get sleep back, right? To fix the joint pain, to fix the brain fog, to be able to restore confidence and whatnot, and all to contribute to that, building of energy and getting that vitality back.
Right. One of my biggest symptoms is the night sweats. and not having a good night's sleep. And it's all building blocks. Like you said, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, then the rest of your day, it's the house of cards can fall. What can women do to fix their sleep issues or to help with the night sweats?
Yeah, that's a big problem. I know I had that too. And there are basically three, kind of points here. The first is that as the estrogen declines, it can impact the speed and the effectiveness of digestion. And this means that even foods that used to agree with you perfectly well might not be friendly any longer, right? They might be treated differently. Like sugar, for example, it's super connected with hot flashes in the day and night sweats at night. And other inflammatory foods like, refined carbohydrates or dairy can also cause digestive problems, which can impact sleep. And unfortunately, the body will always prioritize digestion over sleep. So if there's anything going on there digestively, it's going to impact your sleep. So, what's really helpful, I find, is to go 4 hours from the time you finish your meal until the time you go to bed. And that gives that digestive system time to clear. So that's a really important thing that I never connected with sleep until I really got into it here.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that estrogen has a really protective effect on our bodies, right? A protective effect on our musculoskeletal system, cardiovascular system, and on our brains. And so as estrogen declines, our brain tends to feel the effects of toxin and stress more acutely than it used to. And if the mind is not able to switch off to sleep, then it becomes harder, of course, to fall asleep and to relax. So things that would reduce stress, like doing movement during the day, having some kind of movement routine, be it walking or a Stairmaster or dancing or something like that, can help with stress relief. And so can things like meditation. So meditation can sort of calm the mind and, just bring you to a single point so that you don't have all these, this monkey mind of things going on.
Right.
And the third factor is about sleep hygiene. So, there are a lot of different things that you can do. Like, for example, making your room cool and dark is really helpful to go to sleep. You can refrain from using screens for about an hour because that blue light is very exciting to the brain, and so if you can turn that blue light off, then it allows the brain to sort of calm down a little bit. And also if you can make the bedroom a haven for sleep and intimacy. So it's not like the headquarters of all your social activity or, of your business or of whatever, so that you're trained that your bedroom is the place where you have sleep or intimacy. And that can also train the mind to, to say it's time to sleep. There may be bedding choices that you can make. Using bamboo fabrics, for example, are very wicking, which is lovely. So those are things that can really help with your ability to sleep and to stay asleep.
So me doing Wordle just before I go to bed, you don't suggest that, or watching the most recent episode of Game of Thrones, the new Game of Thrones.
No, reading a book is good. So yeah, so you can do a crossword puzzle all right as long as it's on paper, but the screen effect is
but not on the phone. That's interesting. You can do it on paper but not on the phone. So it's the actual screen that's being disrupted,
that emits the blue light. Yes, it's not the mental challenge of playing the game. That's all great, but it's that blue light from the screens. Yeah.
So we often hear, as women are going to their doctors and they're talking about the symptoms that they're experiencing, that we often hear that the doctors are being dismissive and not taking it as seriously as the women are hoping. Yeah. Are you hearing this?
Yeah, it's all my clients have had that. So I wondered. It certainly happened to me, and I had this trusted doctor that I had selected, a female doctor, because I thought, oh, when I get to that age, this will be a good person to consult with. And
Mhm.
yeah, she didn't really provide any guidance, and certainly no help. She was quite patronizing even. So then I looked into this a little more, and there's actually a study by the American Association of Retired Persons that just came out in 2018, and it confirms that, this is a really big issue. So they asked yeah, more than their members, I think it was a broader reach than just their membership, about whether women were satisfied by the care that they got from their doctors for perimenopause or menopause. And surprisingly, 75% said that they were not satisfied. So, this is
Crazy.
jaw-dropping. And so then they went to the other side of the equation. They went to doctors, they went to GPs, they went to gynecologists, they went to residents just coming out of training. And they asked them, are you comfortable dealing with hormonal issues like perimenopause and menopause? And 80% of them said that they were ill-equipped to deal with this.
Wow.
So, then the researchers said, well, why? Like, what's going on here? And well, the short answer is that it's an elective in med school.
Hmm.
So, unless they were going into geriatrics or specifically women's health studies, they would never come across this in their studies. So that was kind of flabbergasting, but there it is. It's, yeah. I hope this changes over time, because, if 50% of the women, 50% of the people in the world go through this, then clearly it's it's a mainline issue.
Right. Well, and that's why companies like Women S are here to help bring this issue to the surface, and certainly the work that you're doing, helping women. And also, we're noticing it's a trend in the workplace that they're starting to recognize that this is a real issue for women. The symptoms
Yeah.
that they're having can affect what's happening in the workplace. So, how do you talk to your patients about getting these things under control while in the workplace, like the brain fog, like the hot flashes, things that can be really disruptive while you're at work?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was certainly disruptive for me at work, I have to say, and pretty embarrassing. But so, I look at this as kind of external and internal factors. So on the external front, there's something simple like getting a fan. That you can place on your desk, or in the room somewhere, so that you can have air circulation all the time, which is really good. You might want to change your seating. So if you're right under a hot air vent, for example, or a cold vent, I've had both problems. Then you can, ask if your seat can be moved, or you can physically move your desk, or, whatever your situation is, to avoid that kind of influence. You can dress in layers, right? So that you can be able to offload and onload clothing as the need requires. And, a funny story, I used to do a lot of video work I was in marketing and communication, and I would bring this little gel cold pack to work. I put it in the freezer in the lunchroom, and I pull it out before the video was going to happen, and I'd stuff it in my blouse so that my midriff would have this nice, this cool
Great
influence.
idea.
And and I would naturally be a bit, I don't know, flustered or excited about it all. So that would be a prelude to a hot flash. So that I found to be very good. You can sit near a washroom, because sometimes you end up going to the washroom more than you did before for for various reasons. So being able to be near that facility can be something that you can do. And then you can also prepare for meetings in a different way. So what I would do is I would always make sure that I had meetings that would include the attendees, their names, because if brain fog hits, you're not going to remember the names of the people that you're sitting in front of, which is very embarrassing. And I would have some notes about what the meeting's about, and so what some of my ideas are and why they were important, right? So this was a way that I could prepare perhaps more than I used to. I used to just keep it all in my head. But this was a way of getting it out on paper as kind of a, a backup plan. So that's sort of the external factor. But on the internal factor, there are lifestyle approaches that I learned and that I now, advocate, and they can mitigate, hot flashes and brain fog and other things as well. So things like doing hormone appropriate movement, right, that we talked about before, things like walking, swimming, dancing, right? So things that get your body moving that can keep that mobility there and also reduce stress, because both of those things can lead to to hot flashes. You can make food choices that won't cause the kind of reaction. So, as I said before, sugar is directly related to hot flashes, and processed carbohydrates. So, making sure that those are not part of your food choices will make a big difference. And so there are lifestyle, and also your mindset. So when you're in these brain fog situations, it can be very distressing, and it can impact your confidence, your self-esteem. So if you are able to prepare yourself in extra ways, then it helps to bolster that self-confidence. And if you're feeling that, that you're in a positive state, then that's also going to help. And finally, there's just getting good sleep, right? 4 or 5 hours might have been okay before, but it's probably not going to cut it anymore. So with the absence of that, that protection of the estrogen, we really do need to get that protective sleep and allow the body to do that self-maintenance.
We were just talking about food, and are there, for me personally, I'm having a lot of food cravings. Is this something that's normal in perimenopause, and how can we control them?
Yeah, well, cravings are pretty normal in perimenopause, unfortunately. But it's a funny thing. If you stop eating, choosing sugar and refined carbs, then it can make a big difference even after a few days. So, while you're enduring the few days, then distraction methods can really help. So if you are, going to go for a walk, or take the dog for a walk, if you brush your teeth, or, tackle something on your to-do list, these cravings usually only last as long as, 2 or 3 minutes. So if you can run down the clock initially, then you can really make some good headway with this. But mindset plays a really big role here too. And most of these cravings are not because you're hungry, right? It's not about real hunger. It's usually more about some kind of emotion. And so if you can kind of lean into that emotion, like what's behind this? Why am I craving this cake? Well, maybe it's because I had cake when I was a kid and everyone would adore me, right? My parents, my family, and everyone. And I'm feeling like I'm lonely or whatever, and I want to feel adored. So this cake is my surrogate for, for adoration. So then you can say, okay, if I want to be adored, then maybe I can reach out to a friend and we can talk. Or, maybe I can do something nice for myself, whether that's run a bath, or, get a massage, or, whatever it is. So, when you can understand what these cravings are all about, then you can satisfy them a different way. And then, the cravings eventually go away.
Right. Like we talked about, it's all these building blocks, because I find when I have that loss of energy and I'm just sitting on the sofa, literally staring at the wall, that's when the Ben and Jerry's ice cream is calling me, right? And so then I'm not exercising, I'm sitting, I'm eating Ben and Jerry's ice cream, I'm on my phone, on the screen time. So that's also going to be disruptive for my sleep pattern. Like all of these things sort of one leads to another. And then what happens, and this is one of the questions that we had, is you start to lose your mojo, you lose your confidence.
Yeah.
And so what can you do to get your confidence back?
Yeah, well, and it's, it's not surprising that the mojo gets affected, and for me, it was almost like becoming invisible. And well, sometimes that's good to be invisible. You can get a lot done when you're invisible, and then and then you show up with the work done. So that's certainly nice. But most women are basically not prepared for what is going to happen in perimenopause, right? No one talks about that. Like for me, I thought it was just a couple of hot flashes and changes to my period, but wow, there's a lot more going on than that. So being aware of these things can help, because you're not blindsided by all this. And then telling yourself that you're not crazy and that everything is workoutable. So that's an important thing. For some women, HRT really helps. So that can make a big difference to mood and to energy and mojo and whatnot. So, for some women, that's a solution, but not for all. And, then it's back to these building blocks of lifestyle approaches that can also be so significant. And celebrating success, right? I don't think women celebrate success. And even if it's a small thing, to think, well, I got over that craving, look at me go. Or it's, I had a really good idea that I was able to put forward and a lot of people liked it. Yay, right? So even if it's a small thing, being able to celebrate those successes is a great thing, because probably it's a lot easier to go, oh, I didn't do that well, or oh, I could have come up with some other ideas, or oh, I'm feeling lousy, right? So it's not only that you're replacing one with the other, it's that your mind only has room for one thought. And if you can populate those thoughts with positive ones, then you're going to feel a lot better. And that's going to lead to, some kind of mojo resurgence. So that's
a great answer. I have to celebrate remembering why I walked into the kitchen.
Because yes.
Because oftentimes I forget. So Dyna, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Taking Questions. Again, I'm talking with Dyna Vink, who is the founder at Holistic Nutrition Lifestyle. And Dyna, if our followers want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Right. I would love to speak with members. I offer a free perimenopause symptom assessment, and I invite women to take advantage of this. So what we do is we review your perimenopause journey, and I use a series of questions from a lifestyle approach framework. And the assessment just goes through and we reinforce some of the positive habits that you have, and we identify some gaps and opportunities for enrichment using lifestyle approaches. And, the important thing is this allows a woman to be heard, right? And to know that she's not alone. And often women don't connect all the symptoms that they're experiencing with perimenopause. So this can be a real light bulb moment to go, wow, okay, and now I get a better understanding of what's going on. So I'd be happy to offer this, and I think we're going to post a link. Is that right?
That's correct.
So that women can schedule a call. So I encourage women to do that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you for making women feel like they're not alone and helping us on this journey, making women feel heard.
Thanks, Anne. My pleasure.